Hello and welcome to Monday's Granada Report. We are live with the latest across the northwest.
Hello, thanks for joining us. On the programme this evening.
He lived for just one day. How did little Luca die in one of our region's biggest hospitals? His parents want answers.
The three tiny tots who want to see Granny. A family's fight against the red tape that stops her visiting them.
She just wants to come and stay like a grandparent would come. You know, if your family lived down south, they'd come up north for a few weeks and go back. I think it's a basic human right.
And in the weather, some of us got absolutely soaking wet today, and there's more where that came from. All the details coming up.
So please do stay with us. But first tonight, the mum of the newborn baby who died at Tameside General Hospital has told a court she felt like she was bothering midwives when she raised concerns about her labour.
Her little boy, Luca Yates, lived for just one day. He died in January last year. An inquest in Stockport has been hearing his mother, Nicole Ditchfield, made numerous phone calls to the hospital when she went into labour. She went to the hospital and was sent home twice after being told she wasn't in active labour.
Tragically, Luca suffered brain damage, which his family believe is due to a lack of oxygen during a difficult birth. Jennifer Buck has been at today's hearing. Jennifer.
The inquest opened here today with emotional statements from Luca's mum and dad. Their experience through pregnancy, labour and sadly the death of their little boy who died at just 1 day old. Luca suffered brain damage. He was born through an emergency C-section after more than 36 hours of labour. Now, Luca's parents arrived here at court with their new baby, and at times mum Nicole got emotional as she was listening to their statements being read out. The court heard that Nicole Ditchfield made many calls to the hospital when she was in labour, and she was sent home twice as she was told she was not yet in active labour. Speaking to the coroner, Chris Morris, she said, "I was made to feel a bit dramatic as it was my first baby, like I was bothering them." She said she raised concerns about being sick and losing blood. Now, medical staff at Tameside General say they did consider further tests but insist that all the examinations needed took place. Now, after Nicole was sent home for the second time, she said she was feeling the urge to push and wanted to go back to hospital. She was trying to get through on the phone, but it took her 13 attempts to get through on the phone, and she said that made her feel worried. She said she rang her mum while she was waiting because she just didn't know what to do. When she did get through to the midwives at the hospital, she was told to return.
So, Jennifer, what happened when they were admitted to hospital?
Well, once they were admitted to hospital, both Luca's parents described things moving very quickly. Nicole was given a general anaesthetic and Luca was delivered through an emergency caesarean. Jack Yates, speaking through a statement, is Luca's dad, and he described the terrible scene as his son was attached to so many different machines. He says that the family believe that he died due to a lack of oxygen because of that difficult birth, and we heard today that the medical staff tried for 40 minutes to resuscitate Luca. Now, some of the midwives and the doctor who cared for Nicole has given evidence today, and Tameside General Hospital say it has changed some procedures with their phone system and recording information since Luca died. The inquest here in Stockport will last till the end of the week.
Jennifer in Stockport, thank you.
More news now, and a teenager has been charged with the murder of a 14-year-old boy in Harper Hay. Nathaniel Shani died in hospital after he was stabbed in Tavistock Square in North Manchester on Friday evening. Greater Manchester Police have now charged a 14-year-old who can't be named. A 13-year-old, also arrested on suspicion of murder, has been released on bail.
Former football coach and serial paedophile Barry Bennell has died in prison. The former Manchester City and Crewe Alexandra coach was serving 34 years for child sex offences against more than 20 boys between the 1970s and the 1990s. The Prisons and Probation Ombudsman is now investigating his death.
Well, now, I love this picture. As you can see, this is a family with their hands full looking after triplets, and they would love nothing more than for their 3 tiny tots to meet one of their grandmothers. The couple from Hale in Greater Manchester fear that politics is stopping that happening. Maddie and Baljit Singh had their babies in April, but they've still not met their grandmother, Baljit's mum, Gurmeet, who lives in India.
Well, the triplets are too vulnerable to fly, and the government's rejected their grandmother's visa applications because they say Gurmeet might never go back. Anna Yosef has their story.
A video call with Grandma is now part of the Singh triplets' daily routine. It's the only way Gurmeet Kaur can see her 5-month-old grandsons. She's in India, they live in Hale in Greater Manchester. They've never met, and she doesn't know if they ever will. Her UK visit visa's been refused 4 times on the grounds she may not return home, something her daughter-in-law denies.
We love Baljit's mum, but we haven't got room for her to live here. She's been married for over 50 years to a husband who I'm sure would have an issue with her not going back. She doesn't actually want to live here. She just wants to come and stay like a grandparent would come. You know, if your family lived down south, they'd come up north for a few weeks and go back. I think it's a basic human right for a grandparent to hold their grandchild.
The couple say after struggling with infertility for years and finally conceiving through IVF, they just want Baljit's mother to meet her grandchildren.
It must be agonising for your mother not to be able to hold her grandchildren in her arms.
Definitely it is. It's a bit hard. Like we make video calls and they can't even tell who's who.
You know, it must just hurt her heart. It must hurt your heart that you can't share your beautiful boys with.
Sorry.
Why do you think your mother-in-law's visa keeps on getting refused?
I think it boils down to being means tested, because even though that doesn't come into the application, we were prepared to pay for everything. She's retired, so we support them financially from this country alongside a pension. It's a relentless procedure, actually, the amount of evidence that you have to supply for both us and for his mum, so that we can prove that we are respectable sponsors who can financially look after ourselves and her, and also to prove that she will go back. I mean, we did go above and beyond because we really wanted it. We tried our best. We wanted to put everything in that we thought would count. I think there is a political agenda that is not for me to comment on, really, between our government and the Indian government. I think there's another issue, but it's a blanket no.
Flying to India isn't currently an option as there are health risks for the triplets who were born prematurely.
It's time for your nappy change.
Their other grandmother, who lives locally, says she can't imagine what it must be like to be kept apart from them.
I feel so sorry for her, and it's just heartbreaking to even think about it, because they're just everything to me. So I couldn't do it.
In a statement, the Home Office said, all visa applications are carefully considered on their individual merits, on the basis of the evidence provided, and in accordance with the immigration rules. We do not routinely comment on individual cases.
Bye, everybody. Bye-bye. Say bye, bye-bye.
With no way of appealing the decision, the family feels further apart than ever. Anna Yosef, ITV News, Hale.
Yeah, totally adorable babies there, and well done for doing that interview while feeding one of them like that. And that washing line, absolutely packed with babies' clothes. Very sweet.
I thought I had it bad. I've got 2 at home. No, thank you.
3 all in one go is a handful.
It certainly is. Next, it's an unprecedented week for the NHS as doctors continue their strike action over pay.
Yeah, there is going to be major disruption, which will make those growing waiting lists even longer. Consultants are walking out for 48 hours from 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. Then 24 hours later, junior doctors start their 24-hour strike.
Well, that means on Wednesday, for the 24-hour overlap, almost all planned care will come to a stop and hundreds of thousands of appointments will be postponed.
Yeah, the Wirral GP, Dr Paula Cowan, is the NHS England Regional Medical Director for Primary Care. Well, earlier she had advice for patients with appointments this week. So, what should they do?
So patients who have appointments this week, if they haven't been contacted by the hospital, by the trust, where their appointment or their procedure is due to be undertaken, then they should attend, they should present as they normally would. And those patients who have had to have their appointments rearranged will have already been contacted. I think the other really crucial thing to get across is that emergency services will continue during this period of time. 999 ambulances, emergency departments are open and available for emergencies.
What about those who have had their appointments postponed? How long are they going to have to wait now?
So those patients who've had their appointments or their operations cancelled during industrial action, they will be prioritised and they will be seen as soon as possible. But again, this will impact on our patients, this will impact on our population, and trusts and secondary care hospitals are doing everything that they can to address that, to make sure that they get those patients seen and have their procedures done as soon as possible after the industrial action.
It's been 8 months of industrial action now, so this backlog must be growing and growing.
It is. I mean, we can't get away from the fact that the impact that the industrial action is having on the back of having come out of COVID, where we did have, backlogs at that time, and we were addressing that, and those were being managed. But now this is having an impact, and we can't shy away from that.
This is frightening for many of our viewers. What advice would you have to someone who has a medical emergency?
Anybody over the course of the next week who has a medical emergency, depending on the scale of that emergency, but if they do have a significant emergency, they should contact 999 as they would in any ordinary situation in terms of an emergency situation.
And Doctor, you are a GP on the Wirral, so these hospital strikes must have an impact on you too.
Hospital strikes have an impact on everybody, whether you're in the Wirral, whether you're in Manchester, whether you're in Langston, South Cumbria, they impact on all of us. And I think that the key thing, and as I've said to you already, the key message to get across is that we are and have continued to be open for business.
Well, the very best of luck with the challenges that lie ahead of you this week. Dr. Cowan, thank you for joining us tonight.
Not at all. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and if you do get caught up in all of that, please don't hesitate to let us know. Well, next up tonight, if you have ever fancied your hand at writing for some of our most popular television shows, now might be your chance.
Yes, the ITV Academy's Original Voices scheme aims to get people from underrepresented backgrounds into the writing rooms of some well-loved soaps.
Yeah, this year it is the first time that both Emmerdale and Coronation Street are running the scheme together. And with applications closing this weekend, Simran Johal has more.
The UK's longest-running soap is looking for new writers. The Original Voices scheme puts people like David Proud right onto the cobbles of Coronation Street.
I've always wanted to be a writer. I wrote school plays at school and kind of had my friends perform them in assembly, which didn't make me hugely popular because I was dragging all my friends in to perform plays about drugs and different issues and different bits. So yeah, I always wanted to be a writer, but didn't think I'd be able to do it as a career.
As much as I want to participate. But you are such a spoilsport.
You leave the scheme with a proper full credit that you can then use to further your career. So opportunities like this are extremely rare. I think getting my first script commission, and I sat at home and I typed interior rovers, and I kind of just took a moment and kind of went, that's my job now. This is it's the best show in the world.
The episode.
One person that's breaking barriers both on and off screen is Shanique Sterling-Brown. She plays the budding lawyer of the Bailey family.
Well, you deserve all the bougie holidays because you're a top solicitor. Well, I'll drink to that.
To Dee-Dee.
It's really brilliant to find voices for different characters, like so us being a Caribbean family. I love the moments that I can identify having experience with my actual Caribbean family.
Just make sure you always phone them.
Always.
A scheme that is intentionally seeking to make room at the table is just the perfect way to find those voices that are in hard to reach places.
These were clean on this morning. Look at that.
The biggest concern for this industry is diversity off-screen. People with disabilities and those over the age of 50 are very underrepresented. But also over the last 4 years, we've seen a lack of women in these jobs, and South Asian representation is even falling.
There are all sorts of accessibility issues within the industry, and so trying to dismantle that is definitely the way forward.
Well, if you've only got one type of person in a room trying to come up with storylines, they are at risk of coming up with only one type of story. And as I say, we want to have a broad viewer base, we want to represent a broad range of experiences, and Britain is a brilliantly diverse place with a range of different voices and perspectives, and we need to make sure we are that as well, both on and off screen, and that originates with the writing.
So, if you think you could be the next screenwriting superstar, the Cobbles might be where your stories come to life.
Yeah, how good would it be to see a credit at the end of a great show like that? And if you fancy having a go at this scheme, you can find out more on our website at itv.com/Granada.
Now, if I was to say Caractacus Potts and truly scrumptious, what springs to mind?
Well, truly scrumptious. It is, of course, Chitty, Chitty, Bang Bang. Taking to the stage at the Pendle Hippodrome Theatre in East Lancashire, in Cone to be precise.
Paul Crone caught up with the cast in final rehearsals at a theatre run entirely by volunteers.
From the ashes of disaster rose the roses of success.
There are no worries about succeeding at the Pendle Hippodrome Theatre in Cone. Go big or go home is always the motto here, as the cast put the final touches to... Yes, it's an all-singing, all-dancing production of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
It's a good family show. People will be singing along, clapping along, and they know all the songs, which is always good when you do a show which is based on a film. People know it before they even come, but the expectation is a lot bigger then.
The building originally opened in 1914 as a cinema and variety theatre. Today, it's run entirely by volunteers.
Without volunteers, this place would not exist. We need them for front of house, backstage, lighting, on stage, wardrobe. If we don't have people just to sit in as stewards, we can't own.
It is a big commitment, but we all love it, and you know, if you love it, then you put the time in, don't you? It's worth it, definitely, in the end.
Backstage, Baron and Baroness Bombburst are rehearsing their lines.
Chuchi, wuchi, uchi, kuchi.
With a plethora of youngsters in the cast, chaperones and working around school time is a theatrical headache that can involve two sets of the same characters. So, who do you play?
Jemima. Jeremy.
You?
Jemima. And Jeremy.
Ooh, need to have an audition. Audition.
Treacle tarts and ice cream.
It's a draw.
Yeah, it gives people a chance in Colne and surrounding areas to see, you know, like an almost professional production of things that they might not always get to see in the likes of the Palace and Empire and things.
Chuchi, wuchi, uchi, kuchi. Chuchi, wuchi, uchi, kuchi, pear.
Chitty Chitty Bang Bang opens tomorrow at the Hippodrome and runs until September the 23rd. Or it could be a little longer. A lot longer. A lot longer. Paul Crone, ITV News, Cone.
We're not doing coochie coochie. We're not doing it.
Go on. Now the weather with Emma.
Mom, wet wipes, toilet or bin?
Bin. Why?
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada Weather.
Hello there. Well, my goodness, there's a lot of weather coming at us over the next 48 hours, all very autumnal this week, and a warning for heavy rainfall and significant rainfall totals, particularly for Greater Manchester, Cumbria and Lancashire. And that warning runs from 6 tomorrow morning until 6 in the evening on Wednesday. Such a prolonged period because we've got two waves of rain coming through, 50 to 100 millimetres of rainfall falling widely in these areas, but potentially 150 to 200 millimetres of rainfall in some spots. So do beware, surface water water spray and flooding as well, and some cold nights later in the week. So why is all this happening? Well, we have the remnants of Hurricane Lee pushing across. The jet stream really highlights this very well, why it's going to turn colder. You can see the remnants of Hurricane Lee are on this very strong jet stream here, and so bringing the 2 waves of rain and very strong winds, coastal gales and gales across the Isle of Man as well. But then by the time it moves through, it leaves us in more of a northerly flow, and it will feel much cooler through Thursday and Friday. Rewinding to the next few hours, feeling fresher this evening than it did this morning. Some showers keep coming on that westerly airflow ahead of this first wave of rain that pushes in towards the early hours, and by 5-6 in the morning, still gusts of 50 miles an hour across the Isle of Man, increasing to gale force winds throughout the day tomorrow. Sun is up at 6:50. It's going to be a very wet rush hour first thing tomorrow, and very breezy. Not as windy inland as it will be through the Irish Sea there. Do be aware of that, but really those winds quite relentless through the Irish Sea across the Isle of Man and at the coast. Brightening up later in the day. The winds ease down a bit inland, but not through the Irish Sea overnight into Wednesday. More heavy rain Wednesday, sunshine and showers Thursday, Friday. Some pockets of frost by night. Bye-bye.
Cleaned up well.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Emma, thank you. On tomorrow's Granada reports.
It's the unmistakable sound of Northern Soul, because it is 50 years since the Wigan Casino opened its doors.
Back in the 70s, the venue's all-nighters became the stuff of legend, and we'll be looking back and sharing memories to mark the anniversary.
Yeah, it's the night where anything goes and you dance like no one's watching. I love that.
Bye-bye.
Like that. Good night. There is someone watching.